They lost their job. They should get the one shot deal right away. They shouldn't even go to They should not even go to court. The tenants should have the ability, the city fixed their problem with the system that they don't even have to go to court. Why hurt the landlord? Why hurt the tenant? If the tenant lost a few months of his job, whatever it is, and he got a new job, get that paperwork done. Back in the 90s, they would have the tenant say, okay, you're there for repairs. That's why you didn't pay the rent. The judge made up put an escrow. No, 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 no. Give me the rent. And if what escrow? The court's okay. No, no, give me your back rent plus another month. Well, some tenants I can say they're broke, they have problems, or they lost their job. They should get the one shot deal right away. They shouldn't even go to. They should not even go to court. The tenants should.
Hmm. Hmm. Wait, no, I do not need Loom Note Taker. All right, just give me a second. Hello.
How are you?
I'm very good, and yourself?
I'm very well, thank you.
All right, am I all set? Just give me one second. Let me get my notes out. Okay. All right, here we go.
Let's do this.
All right. Hey everyone, good afternoon and good evening over in the United Kingdom because it's 7 to 8 p.m. over there.
It is.
On the and before I make a really, really, really bad global joke, because my guest here's family, I believe, comes from the middle portion of the globe. Apparently, now we know why people in the UK are late to the party because they're on a 7 hour different time zone.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so welcome to Autism Experience
Thank
Podcast, and today I have what kind of a coach are you exactly?
an ADHD life coach.
Okay, let's let it, what Shama just said. This is Shama, and she's a resident of the United Kingdom. Today, she's going to be telling us her story. We're going to be delving into what her coaching business is, and let's get into this.
Let
So, first things first. My first question is going to be, what do you do professionally besides
so
the coaching?
so professionally, I help people who have been diagnosed or undiagnosed with ADHD. They may have traits that they've been thinking about they may have, but they haven't got around to getting themselves diagnosed. But what I do is I help them gain acceptance, confidence, accountability, and productivity.
So this is a complete coaching business, or do you do this as well as for like what we call in your country private charity or the private sector or the
I am
government?
part of both, actually. I can straddle both quite easily, but mostly my clients are private.
Clients are private. Okay. All right. Who in the world or your life do you want to help?
Everybody.
Fair enough.
Anyone, everybody. I want to help everybody. But at the moment, my passion seems to be helping our younger generation and generational adults who,
That's right, you're a mother.
yes, I am. I'm a mother of two. They're teenagers, and one of my kids also has ADHD because it's inherited, and obviously it's clear where they got it from. So for me,
Understood.
yeah. So for
Now,
me,
what age are typical what age groups do you work with in your private coaching?
well, I can work with as little as 10 years old up until 80. I've had both. So yeah.
Do you have adult clients past the age of 18?
I have adult clients up to the age of 80.
Oh, that's interesting. So yes, we're looking at late diagnosed people. We'll
Oh,
get
yeah,
into that,
absolutely.
but first things first. Before we touch on the personal life, let's ask you a couple questions. First and foremost, I know you were born in the United Kingdom, but were your parents immigrants? And if so, where did they originally come from?
We've all been born and brought up here. My parents came over from Pakistan when my mum was 2 and my dad may have been around 14 years old.
Was one of the reasons because I do know this for a fact from not just studying history, but just because of the region you mentioned you're from, was because Pakistanis probably do not have the same opportunities uh, back home as in the United Kingdom?
There is that element, but it was also after the war, part of the Commonwealth initiative was to bring over people from various countries
Was
who
this World War II?
participated. Yeah. So after
Okay.
the World War II, in the 50s and 60s, a lot of people from the West Indies, from India and from Pakistan were brought over to kind of rebuild the country. So it was almost like a collaboration of the entire Commonwealth.
Of course, because I remember watching what the hell was the Dunkirk. That's right.
Yeah. Dunkirk,
Dunkirk, and
yeah.
I do know for a fact after the war, whoever took over as prime minister post Chamberlain, unfortunately, Chamberlain was, as we all know in history, was one of the largest warmongering prime ministers that you could think of. He said it himself in one of his famous speeches: "I only bring you blood. I only bring you blood and war." Sorry if I did the
I don't know whether
accent a
that was
little off.
Chamberlain or Churchill, because Churchill was quite the guy as part of the World War II, and he's been brought up on war. Literally, he just lived his whole life
And
everywhere.
that's completely understood because at the time, which was World War II, with the threat that was going on, with the threat of the leader in Germany at that time, he was needed for that specific time period.
Yeah.
But if all he could bring was that, then you pretty much knew that once the war was over, he wouldn't have been an effective leader at that point afterwards for a post-war time.
Possibly. I mean, I don't know that much about it in that regard. For me, it was a
Well,
case of
because
it's a
you
bit behind,
probably
it's a bit
learned
after
two
my time.
histories. You
It's a
probably
bit before my
learned
time.
English history and your home country's history.
So it was a case of learning about various histories and historical events. I mean, I don't really remember much about I mean, we talked a lot about Victorians, and industrial revolutions, and we touched upon, modern history and the World War II and the Holocaust and things like
Did
that.
they
So,
go? Actually, curious question for you. Did you happen to learn about the American Revolution from the English point of view?
no, we're not interested. Sorry.
Oh, interesting. Because I was always wondering how English teachers in the UK would have framed that, since in the birth of this country was effectively because the English crown said to the colonies, you may not have slaves anymore. And everyone who was in American government at that point, including the first independent president, George Washington, whose own descendants were English,
Yeah, yeah,
they were
yeah.
like, "Nope, we ain't
We're
gonna
good.
listen to that." So this is
Well,
our Declaration
there's
of
a lot of things that you
Independence.
guys decided to rebel against, to be honest, but it is what it is.
Well, they wanted to keep their large slave holdings because that was, their thing, but they claimed it was because of British taxation on tea.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I will admit, as an American, even the history I learned over here, let's just say it was very brutal to everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we didn't really learn much about, the British history. I think if I had probably taken history a little bit more seriously, like after GCSE, which is just before high school finishes, if I had probably pursued history in sort of later years, then maybe I would have learned a little bit more. But to be honest, I was more interested in the sciences.
And that's completely okay because unfortunately, what we learned of European history, which included England over here in America, and because we did in my primary school days, or what you just said, which was high school, we had
Yeah,
to study European history and American history, and
yeah.
European history was more surveyed as basically, from what I got from it, was more you kind of got to be careful. There wasn't as many innovations, and it was more everything that could go wrong with governments.
Pretty much. And I think it's still the same.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's changed all that much,
No,
except
it
you have a
hasn't.
couple monarchies still left.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, for me, we had Queen Elizabeth, who was probably our longest reigning monarchy, and for as long as I can remember, she was my queen. So, to have such a massive change at such a sort of different stage of my
Well, she
life.
passed, and I don't think, unfortunately, the expectation is you can expect King Charles to be around for too long because he's a baby boom. He's a baby boomer. He's
Yeah,
old. He's sick. So we don't know how much longer he's going to be around for. And then the next logical in line, if I'm correct, would be William.
that's absolutely
Since
right. Yeah.
unfortunately his brother who's in my age group and generation, they don't like each other right now.
Oh, I'm sure brothers are brothers. I'm sure they'll come around to it at some point. It's only the two of them at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
I'm sure Lady Diana left a big legacy between them. So I'm sure they'll go back.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they'll patch things up eventually. So, what is for my guests especially, I would be interested to know, describe to us what the education model in the United Kingdom is like for anyone tuning in, just so they can understand your background as well, and how that went from like your youngest age to, your highest education, because you guys are different.
No, well, it's not all that different. It's just we have different institutions for different things. And I think if we had I mean, we do have schools that start from, from the year sort of kindergarten, which would be our nursery. Well, no, actually, you've got nursery, then you have kindergarten, don't you? So we have nursery, we have what they call reception, then it starts going into the first primary years. So a child would be as little as 2.5 when they're in nursery. And then when they get to reception, they're around 4 years old. And then when they get to primary school, it's kind of from 5 till about 11.
Okay, and then what's 11 to 16 or 18?
So that would be your equivalent of a high school and what we call secondary education.
Okay, that's what I thought. We still have those terms over here. It's just I don't even know how the American government came up with, the level of institutions like this. But
Yeah.
I was always curious because when my parents were growing up, boomers had pretty much, instead of middle school, it was junior high school, then high school.
Yeah, I mean, that's similar to us having sort of infant school, primary school, secondary school, college, and then university. And then you graduate
Wait, so
university.
college is what years? Because that's where it confuses me. Because
Right. So what we call college is probably your equivalent of finishing senior high.
prep school,
No, so you'd be from 16 to 18.
16 to 18. So college is 16 to 18. And then university would be the
From about
college
19
years.
onwards. So
That's
depending on
why
what
that's the distinction it's confusing on, because what we call college over here is really probably more of an in between, is more of like a prep
university.
in between, but we have community college if, for example, your grades were not that great before you
Yeah.
go, and then we call university 4-year college.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, our courses do tend to range from, I mean, it's always going to be 3 years minimum. Sometimes if you're a doctor, then it's a bit longer. It's a 7-year course. And if it's a dentistry, or 5-year course. But um, most degree courses or majors, as you guys call it, are normally about 3 years. And then you can choose to specialize in a master's of something. So either it's going to be a master of arts or a master of science, or a Master of Philosophy, whatever your major might be. And then after
My
that,
major,
goes up to
my first major started out as what would have been communications, but then I switched to marketing. It's questionable whether I should have
okay.
actually probably just stuck it out with communications
There's
because,
no reason why you couldn't have done both. They're very much
yeah,
linked.
unfortunately, the U.S. system is kind of you could double major, but it'll cost more.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So then after you do,
we have some level of public funding over here, but unfortunately, my country is bigger on this whole idea of you want your education, you figure out how to pay for it yourself.
yeah, back in the day when I was at uni, I think towards the end we had to pay for the final year of fees. But normally our education was free up until university even.
Interesting. I'd always wondered about that. So, when how old were you when you got diagnosed with ADHD?
45.
Oh, you're a late one. Okay. Did
Very
you
late. I fell through the cracks so hard. I just I
I
just
had a
never.
much similar experience with that actually. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I knew from age 4 when I was diagnosed at Yale New Haven that it was that it was minor autism and severe ADHD. But
Okay.
the way it was handled back in the 90s, oh, wasn't universally understood. If you
Yeah.
ever saw the Russell Crowe movie,
Beautiful
uh,
life.
Beautiful Mind.
Beautiful mind. Sorry, I thought it was a beautiful life. That's the other one. Sorry.
No, Beautiful Mind was the one where he played mathematician John
Yes.
Nash,
Yes, that's
who
right.
was paranoid schizophrenic. The
Yeah.
reason my mom took me to that, and I understood it years later, was to kind of help me more understand what autism was, sort of back then, but everyone thought, unfortunately, and we've only changed the title of it now. It's either you're ADHD, you're on the autism spectrum, or back in the 90s, you were mentally retarded, apparently, was the buzzwords that were thrown around because people didn't really bother to take the time to actually understand. I'm not actually mentally retarded. I just carry what we call an IEP or an individualized education plan, meaning that just means I need certain accommodations for work as an adult and then accommodations in school. But we've now, in this, decade that your children are growing up in, we've kind of not solved it, but we've found ways to like still go to school. But like there are a lot of new accommodations. Like instead of going in the traditional classroom, I just completed a certification program via Teams. Although I
Well
kind of,
done.
huh?
Well done.
Yeah, I still, honestly, I miss the traditional college experience where you're actually with people because it's like, it's weird to stay on Teams or Zoom for 3 hours.
Yeah, it can be quite distracting, I imagine.
It's easier, especially the idea is better if you're out of state or in another country and you want to take advantage of American education. I'm not doubting the idea, but it's difficult at the same time,
Mm.
even though you can access more things. Because it's like, what happens for people like you and me who grew up in an age where accommodations weren't necessarily a bad thing for either of us, but we missed the in-person classes,
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
getting to meet people.
For me, I was very terrified of my mum. So I had to mask heavily because I was very worried about the
Was
repercussions.
your mom, well, first, how old are
It
your
was very
parents, if you
strict.
don't mind me asking? Are they
My
baby
mum passed
boomers?
away when she was 56. And that was 9 years ago. 10 years ago. No, 9 years ago. And my
9 years
dad, bless
ago.
him, he's in his 70s now.
Okay, so they were both boomers, basically.
Both
Baby
been.
boomers were 1946 to 1964.
That's correct. Yeah. They were both
Okay,
born in
so
the
yeah,
50s.
I'm guessing. I know globally, baby boomers either had baby boomers were much younger parents, and they in some cases they were having Gen X children if they were in their 70s, if they were in their late 70s or mid 70s. Any boomer who's in their 60s were having children my age, probably, like around. Sometimes it's interesting. You'd find this one interesting. There are celebrities like Larry Ellison whose children are around my age.
Mhm.
Someone like him who's in his 80s who you know, had children a little later than most of his peers.
Yeah. Yeah.
but generally millennial generation born from 1981 to 1996, most of us were birthed by boomers at different points in their lives. So
Yeah. My brother is
interesting.
my brother is he's not Gen X because he was born in 81, so he's just missed it from that regard.
He missed the cutoff, so he's
Yeah.
45 now.
Yeah.
I just turned 40 myself.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
Oh, happy
September.
birthday, Ben. Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah, September. New
I
40-year-olds
thought when you
this
said
year are going to be
recently, I thought it was about a week
1986.
ago.
Huh?
I said when you said it was recently, I thought you said maybe it was about a week ago or something. And
Nope,
I was like, I can't believe I
September.
missed your birthday.
Nope, September 13th.
Nice.
Yes. So, what is the best way for people to find you right now on social media? And what, let's see, how do you run your services? How do you run your coaching services?
So I run my coaching services mostly online. I work with a variety of different psychiatrists and psychotherapists who work with them from a counseling point of view, but I bring about the life coaching because there's a distinct difference between what counselors do and what coaches do. Counselors look at the root of the problem and they peel back layers to find out, what happened in the past that actually created that state. And coaches actually, regardless of what your background is and what baggage you've brought, we try and figure out ways to show clarity in moving forward at all times. So that's the distinct difference. And there's no reason why we can't both work in tandem. So I have that, and I have a variety of different like places where I'm present. So LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on all the socials. You can find me on there at Serenity Coaching. Serenity Coaching spelled Syrenity. I'm in the process of building my website. I'm kind of just getting there slowly. I'm releasing a magazine very soon for neurodivergent young adults
You
because my
will need to send me the magazine
I
links.
will. It's coming out at the end of Feb. We're just finishing, just getting the final touches for
So you
putting.
have a team right now. Yeah,
Kind of.
I have a personal website myself, which just launched this year.
Oh, well done.
I have to actually get back to finishing up a business website because I had won a business website last year during a period of unemployment, and I keep remembering I have to get back. I have to follow up with the guy because I was supposed to do a few
Yeah.
things for him, but the month of January got really busy for me. But
Well, that explains why you took so long getting back to me, Ben.
it's not my fault. It's because I had to go between appointments. I just started working, and that wasn't necessarily my fault. That's just because that was the end of unemployment,
Oh,
the
sure.
month of January. Unfortunately, in order to get hired by January 21st, there had to be a string of things that had to get done, within a period of time.
Of course.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I'm going to be launching a service at some point this year that I'm working on with my mentor in Canada, where we're holding people, which is going to be what we call an accountability partner. We're still figuring out the market for that, but it's going to be and we're still kind of ironing out the kinks with it. But that's one thing that I'm going to be selling this year, where, the idea will be if you want to invest with me, I can basically hold you accountable to all the goals that clients will say they probably don't make come true. And it's actually very funny from a psychological standpoint. I used to
Yeah.
be one of those myself
Yeah.
up until 2021 or 2020. First in 2020, when we got locked down with COVID,
Yeah.
before that, I didn't want to explore the idea of starting a business, even though I said it for many years, which would have started with a podcast. Finally, by 2020, I just said, you know what? I could see where this is going to go and then at least give it a try. So I say I at least tried it once in my life.
Sure, why not? I tried to do something very similar where I had Serenity Night Live on Instagram, but unfortunately, algorithms they ruined everything. I couldn't no longer do my lives because I had to get to 1,000 followers on Instagram, and I'm currently on 600 and something. So, guys, if you are watching this, please follow me so I can get to 1,000 and resume my Serenity Night Live. It's a play on Saturday Night Live, so everybody.
Oh my God, I
However,
love
I've
that
called it
shit.
Serenity
I
Night Live.
loved watching the. I didn't get to watch the. You probably watched going much further back when Chevy
I'll be
Chase
honest,
was.
I've never seen any episodes because they just don't air them here.
Oh, you guys don't get American
Oh, we
programs. I
get
thought you
programs. No,
would.
we get the programs. We get the movies and the serials and things like that, but less of the uh I don't know, what kind of genre do those programs come under?
That's comedy.
Well, we get comedy, but I guess I've never seen an episode of Saturday Night Live, but I've heard good things.
You know what one of my favorite movies was growing up in the 90s? You'd probably remember this. Do you remember Bend It Like Beckham?
Yeah.
You remind me of the Pakistani girl in that movie for whatever reason. I forgot what her name was. Was it Paramind or something?
Yeah, she's not Pakistani, she's Indian.
No, I know, but it's the same English
Same
accent.
potato potato.
Same English accent.
Same subcontinent.
Yeah, exactly. Same region. So
Yeah.
what was it that scared you with your mother? Is it because she was stringently old school? Is that what it was?
She was very strict, and because ADHD wasn't she didn't know anything about ADHD. God knows she probably had it herself, but because she didn't know about it, she thought I needed constant supervision, constant vigilance, um, because I was too friendly, I overshare, I was very disruptive, I was quite hyper sometimes when I'm doing things that I love, like for example, dancing. So for me, she was very strict, and I had to put on a mask for her to behave. Otherwise, it was a case of wanting to please her all the time because she just never seemed happy with me. But bless her, towards the end, I think she passed away before I had my diagnosis, so I guess she would never know about it. But
So you and your siblings all still get together since even though they're both not here anymore?
I only have my brother. My dad's still around. He's still around. He's in his 70s. If my mum was alive now, she would be 67.
So she was probably born around somewhere late 1950s.
Yeah, so she was 58. My mum was born in 1958 and my dad was born in 1952.
Okay. So do you and your brother still get together with your father?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we celebrated my dad's birthday not so long ago, beginning of February.
Ah, okay. So at least you guys make time for some family.
Oh, 100%. We have to make time. It's only me and him now. And, he's got three adorable sons that I absolutely love. So it's nice to be an auntie.
That's good. Let's see what you already said you're on various handles. I
Yeah.
will definitely within probably probably starting next month when some things start clearing up, I will probably take an investment in this program as we had discussed back in November, which is very interesting. But describe to us the program that I was looking at just so we can understand what it is and what it's about.
So I have a program which believes in micro coaching. So micro coaching means tiny, tiny, small pockets of phone calls done daily, Monday to Friday, which adds to the accountability and the productivity. Because if you imagine, say you've got a task list that just seems just too big, can't do it for whatever reason. We break it down. We break it down into smaller chunks so that you're hitting that win every single day and building confidence and momentum that way. And hopefully through that, that's where the motivation kickstarts. But motivation does not come on its own. You have to be disciplined to keep going and keep persevering on systems that have built specifically for yourself based on your own habits and what you're good at. So we don't try and put, like most educational institutions in this country try and do. I will not name them, but they know who they are.
The
They try
traditional
and put,
universities in England.
There's lots, but it's mostly at the secondary school level where the kids are at their formative years, where ADHD becomes even more prevalent, and schools find it very, very difficult to contain that kind of behavior or that kind of disruption. So, what I've been trying to do
That
for
sounds like a
years.
traditional education issue over in my country. We have
But
some.
you think that it would change by now because of the prevalence of ADHD and autism
I
and
think the
dyslexia and
problem
dyspraxia.
is when you elect people who are still relics of the 20th century, you're not going
Yeah.
to get changed. I mean, you're not going to get the change you would like to see. I mean,
But even if we didn't have that, Ben, it's
look
like
at the age of
teachers.
look at the age of your prime minister right now, who's in a lot of hot water.
Forget about him. I don't care about
He's
him.
literally in his early
But
60s.
here's the thing. The private schools and the public schools do not turn towards the government for their own curriculum. They have every opportunity to curate a curriculum that could be designed for neurodivergence to study alongside neurotypical people. There is no reason why they can't do that, but instead they just want to churn people out, churn students out for the sake of the money and not take care of making them well-rounded people despite any kind of disability or disorder that they might have.
That's the same problem in this country. I'm not, what I'm about to say is it's not government related. It's the age of the leaders you appoint in
Yeah.
school districts. That's the problem. And they're all the same age as people
Yeah.
in government.
Yeah. And by
Unfortunately,
now, even the
I don't
advisors.
like to blame my parents' generation, specifically I keep my mom and dad out of this, but the
Yeah.
fact that some of them don't want to retire is really holding back a lot of things. Like if you have worry about your children, then it almost says to me that they need people either around your and my age who are coming into leadership, or they need to go a little younger, but they don't want to just yet.
No, because we're too radical, apparently, in the fact that I even say to them, I don't have a disorder. ADHD is not a disorder. ADHD stands for attention diverted hyperactivity drive.
I'm aware
That's
of
what it
that.
stands for. It
And
doesn't stand for anything else.
they probably just don't want to listen to therapists, counselors, psychologists. They want to just believe that you and me and everyone else will just make the
Yeah,
decision to mask so they can.
it's very short-sighted.
But
They're
that's
not
what
seeing the bigger
happens when
picture.
you let educational curriculums match what corporate companies seem to think is important.
Exactly that. Exactly that. And that's what I've been trying to say for years that actually all of these people who are neurodivergents aren't even becoming part of the corporate machine. They're going out and discovering new things. I can guarantee every time there's been a shift in a product or something new's come out that's gone viral. For example, mobile phones were around, but the iPhone, by whoever who made it,
Steve Jobs.
he was a neurodivergent. 100%. All of
But
these people that have evolved.
here's the contradictory thing for you. And this is what I've always disliked about my country. It's not okay for you or me to be neurodivergent, but it's perfectly, completely fine for Elon Musk because he has how much money?
That's it.
Like, why are we equating neurodivergence, ADHD, and autism to how much money you have to where it's acceptable, but everybody else has to mask?
This is what I'm saying. And the weirdest thing about it is that all these people that have so much money, they could they could change the world. They could so change the world for the better, but they don't. And that's what annoys me more than anything else.
Well, because they have government catering to them. That's part of the reason why. Look at Jeff Bezos. I think Jeff Bezos is, you know, not only quite an interesting man, he's probably somewhere on the spectrum, just like Mark Zuckerberg.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Look at me and your brother's group. We have to deal with Mark Zuckerberg, just like you do. There's another example that, I Mark Zuckerberg has, like, Bezos and Peter Thiel and Ellison have all this money, and they could be doing other things with it that are good things, but they seem to think they need $1 billion.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not making anywhere near that much, but I will give my time to every single neurodivergent that needs my help, regardless. Yes, yeah, I have to eat. I get it. I have a business that I have to run. I
But
get that.
that's the problem with your country and my country logic, which is sure you need people like us to also be workers, but if you're not going to treat us like we're important,
Yeah,
just whatchamacallit, just a item on your balance sheet,
yeah,
i.e., an employee who's not, there's a word I'm looking for. Employees are treated as liabilities on a balance sheet. That's
yeah,
in accounting terms. Then what's my incentive to work for you outside of earning money?
absolutely.
I should be making something for myself if you're not going to give me that, if you're going to make it harder for me to get promoted within your corporate structure because you don't see me as a leader or you don't see me as someone who's able to fit into management just because of the ADHD or the autism, but then
And
you
that's
still
the
need me to
reason
work.
why people change. And that's why people make changes to things because it doesn't suit them. And that's where the neurodivergent come in. We're not neurotypical where we'll just shrug our shoulders and carry on with the rat race. We're like, no, hell no, I need to get out of this and do something different. And so we do. And that's where we start making waves. Now, if everybody did that, the world would be such a better place.
Well, my whole theory is this. More people like you and me should be starting up businesses to employ people like us, but we're not allowed to
Yes.
do that because the financial system is probably very traditional in England because it's the same over here. We took it from you guys,
Mm.
but it's like you have to it's like they consider actually, here's a good example. We'll loan you up to 250,000 for 4 years of college, but we won't teach you how credit works so you can qualify for a business loan.
Absolutely.
Note the contradiction?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You won't give me you'll give me a 30 you'll consider me for a 30-year conventional mortgage, only if I get married and start a family, but if I wanted to buy that same single family home or multifamily home for myself and rent it out, I can't get access to a mortgage
It's
unless I
crazy,
were
isn't
to
it?
basically register as an LLC.
Yeah.
You register, create an LLC, and then come in with extra money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the same thing here. So here's the thing. We have, the welfare system, but the welfare system is very, very unhelpful because you have to jump through so many hoops. And the people that actually need that money can't access it because they're not legible, but it's for them. So that's where we have our little issues.
Wait a second. Oh, so you guys have the welfare state also?
Yeah.
So the people who need the help, like me, can never get the help, but the people who have no ambition to work somehow get,
There's always that. Yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah. That
Or we
happens as well.
basically allow business owners, from wealthier families in both countries, have access to that kind of stuff, but I have to work.
Yeah.
That
And
doesn't make sense.
doesn't make sense. And they want people to come and prosper in business and become entrepreneurs, but they make the business rates so high that it's very difficult for people to become entrepreneurs.
It's the changing yardstick. I
Yeah.
guess,
Which they keep
unfortunately,
changing, which is very annoying.
well, yeah, because that's another problem because you and I can't solve all these systematic problems because
No,
nobody wants to solve these systematic
no.
problems, but
But
we're
what
not
we
trying
can
to do
do,
that.
but what we can do is help neurodivergence navigate around a world that is clearly not built with them, for them to build their own systems so that they can navigate alongside.
Or go with my original idea, which is also allow us to start businesses to hire our own people so they can be employed instead of the unemployment rate among people who are on the autism spectrum and ADHD is
Yeah.
higher than a non-autistic person.
Yeah.
Or, for example, why should I have to go work jobs that are completely outside of my skill set or area that I studied? So the last the last couple things I want to ask is when you went to university right after college, what did you major in?
I did sciences. I did microbiology and I did a master's in forensics.
And what did you decide on as a career path after university that brought you before you decided to go into business?
I did forensic science for about 6 months, and then I realized it wasn't my thing. And my mum never forgave me for that, by the way. I decided to go into sales because I wanted to make money. I was young. I wanted to make money, and I wasn't making any money working as a scientist. I realized in hindsight that it was my impulsivity and my impatience, which is also a trait of mine, that I decided that actually being a forensic scientist or being any kind of medical or scientific field isn't going to be for me. I will make so much more money being a people's person. And I discovered something about myself. I am not a scientist. I am a people's person. I like talking to people. I like selling to people. I like, engaging in their stories and finding out more about them. I'm so interested in other people that I don't know why I was sitting in a lab pipetting from one test tube to another. So I
Because
left
to
my
your
job.
mother, the concept of you being in a lab was probably considered safe.
Yes,
Safe,
and
it was probably high salary, it was probably
it wasn't a
benefits.
high salary. It wasn't the high salary that it was. It was the prestige. Oh, my daughter is a doctor.
Yeah, but everybody's parents are basically everybody's parents, whether you're a daughter of Pakistani immigrants to Indian immigrants, even over here in the United States, whether you're
Yeah.
from a white Jewish family, whether you're from a white Eastern European Jewish family or a regular white Christian family, what occupations do most parents want their children to go into?
Doctors,
Doctor, lawyer,
engineers,
engineer.
accountants, yeah, and accountancy, whatever is going to be a higher
Actually,
paid job.
ironically, accountancy or accountants don't make as much as doctor, lawyer, or engineer.
Oh, you want to come to London?
Accountants make more.
They make so much money here.
For whatever reason, it's not seen as completely respectable over here unless, for example, you go into the tax portion of accounting law, which is where supposedly the quote unquote money is. It's the
Well,
other ones.
here it's if you are a chartered accountant, you deal with along the board of all businesses. So the taxing, everything that is encompassing. I don't know much about accountancy, to be honest. I find the whole thing very boring.
Well, because it was always meant to be boring. My father was an accountant. It was meant to be, especially for,
People don't love maths.
especially for Eastern European Jewish families,
Yeah.
accounting was considered safe.
Yeah.
And it probably still is on some level globally. I'm
It's,
not
yeah.
surprised what you say about chartered accountant, but not everyone likes that. And just like not everyone wants to be a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I fell into science just purely because I was interested. It was very black and white for me. It was very easy for me to understand the concepts. It was very easy for me to understand because I could visualize it all. And that's why I thought science really worked for me. But it was only because it was just working in a lab was just so boring. It wasn't inspiring. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in a lab. I wanted to get out there. I wanted to meet people. And so, just by chance, I got a job as a salesperson in a publication, actually.
So
And
interestingly enough, for me, where my story is probably similar to
yeah,
yours, was I come from a family where my uncle's a comedian, my mother was in public relations and marketing, my
oh
father
wow,
was the numbers person of the family.
yeah,
I ended up bonding more with my mother and my uncle, even though my father's been still in my life for most of my life because they were creative.
yeah.
My first major was communications, like I said. I should have stuck to that route because look what I ended up doing all these years later. The problem was back in the 2000s, if you wanted to do something like a podcast, which wasn't popular back then, it was just regular broadcast radio show. You'd have had to go become a communications major. You'd have needed to do a couple internships out of college, be willing to work for free,
Yeah.
which nobody wants to necessarily do,
Yeah.
or no influential people, meaning a lot of, traditional networking, which is a pain in the butt. And almost by 2020, when Zoom and video conferencing became much more popular finally, then YouTube was taking off, which was under Google's umbrella. We started to see a shift and adaptation and evolving of video, of, making videos, doing podcasting. Podcasting took off and turned into its whole separate industry where it became the umbrella of broadcasting, where now anyone can start a YouTube channel or, make videos versus having to go work for traditional mainstream media outlet and
I
have to
think
deal with all
MySpace
the
was the one that pioneered the whole, build your own fan base on based on what you do. So either it was
MySpace.
music.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because I didn't get MySpace until 2 years after high school. That was until somebody made it for
Yeah, we
me.
were very familiar with MySpace
And
when it first came
Facebook,
out.
you couldn't originally get on Facebook until 2008 unless you were in a traditional university.
No, I was on Facebook from 2007.
They started changing the rules that year,
Okay.
2007. Originally, if you were not in a traditional enrolled university in the United States with a college email, you
Yeah.
couldn't access Facebook, but then Facebook changed that and expanded their market.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
That's why you and I could make profiles then.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And it's
amazing.
interesting to see how far technology has evolved to this point where now you don't have to have. You there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, where now you don't have to use a traditional camera anymore with old software. You can just get on Zoom, ask, "Hey, do you have time on this day? Let's book it on the Zoom Google Calendar." And then just like we did today, we just hop on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best way.
It's much easier now instead of having to do traditional broadcasting studios.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in the States, when I look at, traditional radio people like Sid Rosenberg, even though I get kind of annoyed with the guy, just off his political beliefs, but that's completely separate.
Yeah.
He's still in that old school broadcasting, broadcast radio kind of whatchamacallit for a traditional network. You know, if somebody like that did a podcast, he could still be effective, but they had to build audiences the old way.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it was old traditional advertising, old traditional ways of getting people to
Oh yeah, and
understand.
your advertisers could pull you if they didn't if it could basically end the deal with you if you did something that pissed them off.
Or if you weren't getting the numbers in.
That too.
Yeah.
But most brands nowadays, even what I see sometimes, on LinkedIn, people are getting in trouble with their brands and brands are pulling out, of deals with, even certain coaches nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I like to think is that I'd like to think that I am financially accessible because I've seen what coaches charge these days for their programs. It's like, £5,000, £10,000 for a
You should
3 day.
see what some of the American ones charge.
How much do they charge?
It all varies, and the problem is because we're looking in two different currencies, we'd have to peg £5,000 to what it would be in the American equivalent. That's probably 4,000 or something like that
Mm.
USD.
It'll be
Honestly,
more.
it depends on the coaching service they're selling and what they deem in terms of advice and value they're giving the client.
Well, this is the thing. So everyone who has come to me has said that, wow, you give such good value for such little price. Why don't you up your rates? And I'm like, but the point is, I don't really want to up my rates because I want to be financially accessible for people who are struggling in the job market, who are, they have ADHD. then probably not in a higher pay.
That's also individually your choice, and it's actually a very noble thing to do to keep prices, in the range that you do. By the
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
you said 5,000 pounds. That's United States dollars. You're looking at almost 7,000.
yeah. And my programs cost at most $700 a month.
The one you showed me, that came to 350 United States dollars.
Yes. So that what you're saying is more of it's not a daily micro coaching, but it's coaching for you, say 2 or 3 times a week. So it's not as much time, but it gives you enough to get yourself on the accountability spectrum and
Right, and
get
that's
that
probably
practitioner.
something that'll eventually be useful for my own accountability program that I'm building with my
Absolutely.
friend in Canada. What I
Good.
might
Make sure you
do
look me
is
up.
arrange a Zoom for you, me, and him one of these days,
Oh,
so
100%.
he can also meet you as well.
I'd
Could
love that.
he he's a commercial real he's a part commercial real estate investor, but he's a tech person, so he's a full
Excellent.
stack developer. Well,
Okay,
I will
perfect.
talk with him, about you, and then we'll see, eventually, because he and I meet on a weekly basis, so that'll be
Okay.
something I'll keep you up to date on.
Oh,
Anyway, I
100%. Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time over there since it's almost, what is
Yeah.
it now, 8:30?
Oh, it's okay. That's why I said to you, let's have an earlier call so then I can fit you in. So I can
Yeah,
go in deeper.
exactly. And I appreciate this.
Oh, I appreciate
This
you
was a good
changing. So,
recording today. I really enjoyed this, and we'll be in touch about the program. Give me a little more time, but I appreciate you
well,
coming
you take
by,
your
Shama,
time.
and I look forward to working with you soon.
Oh,
Okay?
100%. I can't wait to work with you, Ben. You take
Yep.
care of yourself. It was
All
lovely
right.
to meet you.
All right, guys. We'll see you at the next one.